You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 93 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, and as always, I'm with the tormented Jeff Gargas. I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Is it tormentive? Like, as in I torment people? Is that what's going on here?
Oh, like you torment me? Oh, that's better.
Yeah,
yes.
that I torment you. I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, you do torment me because as we interviewed Robert in this episode, he did not really like how mean you were to me. So I got that recorded. I'm going to listen to it every night before I go to bed. I mean, he was a Ray supporter, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, I actually think he was just trying to get you to like him enough to give him the trophy for the speed run that we do. I think that's what was going on there.
I thought you were going to say that he was giving me pity because I have a sling on my shoulder.
That's probably what it was. He felt bad because I was picking on you, even though, you got your arm in a sling from your surgery. So, whatever. So how are you doing? How's your arm doing?
Well, my arm's good. I feel good. I'm glad that I was able to bond with Robert, and this was a great episode.
It was a great episode. I want to kind of have you, if I can get you to sort of rant a little bit, maybe. So it's August. We're into August here. I know things are crazy. We're getting ready to roll. The year is coming or already here for most of you listening. And one of the things that a lot of the things that Rob talked about in this episode, were around setting that tone and bringing the excitement, the passion to get people excited to learn and ready to learn. And I know right now so many teachers have so many things going on that they're preparing for the year. So, can you give us all sort of a reminder of where our minds need to be going, what we need to be focused on, what is most important right now for everyone listening, getting ready for their year?
Students. That's all I need to say. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, this whole season, when August hits and we're all headed back to the classroom, I mean, I'm speaking for myself that my to-do list is never ending, and every meeting I sit in adds another thing I need to do. And when I'm in those meetings, all I'm thinking about is how I really need to be in my classroom getting ready for my students. And Robert, in our interview with him today on the podcast, just had this really inspiring focus for me in not just communicating how I hope all leadership approaches their staff this season, but also how, as an educator, I need to sit back and really be reminded of what my focus should be as the educator in the classroom. It's amazing to me that as we get bogged down by our to-do list, really what we should be focusing on is our students. The to-do list becomes irrelevant when they start walking in your door. And I think that, our guest not only emphasizes that in his podcast and his answers to the questions that we were able to talk with him about, but his focus on, really showing up and then providing those tactical next steps that if you're ready to show up in those ways, what you can do right now to make that happen was just amazing. It really made this podcast special for me personally. Did you feel that same energy from him, Jeff?
I did, and I actually say it in the podcast, and I told Rob this a few different times since we've been connected for a long time, that he actually talks a little bit about this, but his energy and his passion, it's contagious. You can feel it. As soon as you talk to him, you feel it, you hear it, and that's he talks about wanting to do that, and I love how he goes into it. He shows he's great with the stories in this episode of how he brings that as the principal and stuff. So absolutely, I felt it the whole time. So let's talk real quick about the episode and get right into it. I think we can get right into it because I think you just laid it out really well. So Robert Breyer is the principal of Cameron Elementary School, which is in the Moore County school system in North Carolina. And he's been a classroom teacher and administrator at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. he's worked with thousands of kids, been in education for quite a while now. He does a lot of work with other school leaders, trying to help them by trying to share stories and work with them. He blogs, he writes. He's recently launched a podcast, the Guiding Principles podcast, which we actually don't touch about in the podcast. He mentions it at the end, but something that I really want everyone to go check out. It's new, but it's really fantastic. I love his format that he's set up and what he does for it, that he shared with us afterwards. So I'm super excited about that. But Rob's been in our community for a long time. We've learned so much from him in mastery chats and stuff like that. And so this was just a great episode. I just loved his stories and what he shared. And like you said, you mentioned sometime in here that it's not just stories, but there's action items and everything that he talks through. That you, if you're listening, you can take these things that Robert's talking about and put them into place, put them into action in your life. And in your school or in your classroom. I'm really excited about that. So, Ray, you already said quite a bit about what he did, like what he brought, but any other piece that you want everyone to take when they're listening to this?
I think one of my favorite components of his answers is the quotes he provided. So I actually wrote a lot of them down and plan on sharing them to a lot of my network friends. But also, as you're listening, really take in these quotes. He provided 3 or 4 that just really hits you hard, and they're great memories. So make sure to take those and just pay attention. I just thought that was so cool.
With that, let's get into episode 93 with Robert Breyer.
Hey everyone, we so appreciate having you listening here with us. If you enjoy the show as much as Jeff and I enjoy amplifying these educator stories, I'd really like to encourage you to leave a rating and review. It takes about 3 minutes. Just click your star rating. I personally am a fan of that 5-star review, and then share a comment about what you enjoy most about our podcast. To be honest, this just allows us to reach more listeners and further share these amazing educators' message.
All right, we are here and we are talking with Rob Breyer. And Rob, it was crazy. We were just talking. I'm like, hey, do you like Robert? Do you like Rob? And you're like, oh, Rob's good. And I'm like, I'm going to call you Rob. And I almost said Robert. And then I almost stopped myself because I was thinking I was going to say your name wrong, but I was really just going to say Robert, and apparently that's wrong. So I have started this off very well for us, I think, and it's all downhill from here. So we're super excited to have you on, man. We've been connected with you on Twitter for I don't know how long. You've been always very active in the mastery chats, which is I think how we originally got connected. Chad and I are really fortunate. We're getting to come down to North Carolina and see you next month, so we're super excited about that. But I'm pumped to have you on here, pumped to kind of dive in, learn more about your story, and chat with you here. But before we go on anywhere, man, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great and happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Rob, I think I'm going to come up with nicknames for you throughout the podcast, like Robbie, Robert, Rob. I just think we can interchange them as we go. I think it'll be really good. But before we get to all that fun, I want to make sure our listeners kind of get to know you. I think that we've gotten to know you for quite a while, but for our listeners, would you mind telling us kind of how you describe yourself and all that you do?
So I always describe myself as the proud principal of Cameron Elementary School. And that's because I am very fortunate to work with an amazing staff who is passionate and dedicated to working with kids and serving all the students of Moore County. And to be honest, I may be biased, but we have the most incredible kids in all of North Carolina and maybe even the United States. And we have a mantra and we say that we are Cam Scott's proud. And to be Cam Scott's proud, that means that you exude all our character traits that we look for of just being respectful, responsible, having self-control. And mostly the best part about it is our kids, when they go out in the community, and this past year at graduation, we had a kid wearing Cam Scott's proud across his graduation hat. So that was really a proud moment for me. So, but honestly, as a principal, you wear so many hats. And I think the way I would describe myself as a tone setter. And that's because my job is to come to school every day and get people excited, energized, passionate, and just ready to engage students and get them excited about learning on a daily basis. I often refer to this as a trickle-down effect in education because my energy and my passion has to be contagious. And I want every teacher in my school to exude the same energy and passion for engaging students and getting them excited about learning that I have. So when this happens, how can your students not be stoked about learning when everybody in your school is just excited and passionate and ready to go every day? And when you come on to our campus, the energy and the passion, you can feel it as soon as you get on the campus. So And that passion and energy, it just simply trickles down to our students and empowers them to be engaged learners. And a friend of mine, Dr. Peter Carpenter, he once said on Twitter, and he may not have said this, but he did put it on Twitter, and I love it. So your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card, and how you make other feel working with you, that's your legacy. And this continues to stick with me, and it's something I try to live by.
Wow. So your energy and passion are absolutely already contagious. So you're doing well there. I was gonna come in with Robbie Wobbie, so that's the name I'm going with right now. Ray, you're up next. I mean, you really could though. All seriousness, feel your energy. And I told you this before. Like, you could feel your energy and your passion through. I can feel it through your tweets, like, which seems weird, but it's the truth. And when we've talked before and stuff, and I love that you said you might be biased, but I really want everyone to listen and reflect back on the fact that you said you have the most incredible kids in all of North Carolina, and I hope that there are a whole bunch of principals in North Carolina right now like upset, ready to challenge you to that, because I hope that other principals and other teachers and other admins of all different levels feel the same way, that they're like, I'm ready to say this out loud, proud, on Teach Better Talk podcast, that we have the best kids in the entire state, entire country. I love that. That's an important piece that I think your students will feel from you, and I know from seeing stuff at your school that they do. So that's awesome. So I want to talk a minute about a time that you've had some challenges and a failure. So can you kind of take us to a time that you've struggled and that you failed, and kind of tell us what happened, how'd you overcome that, and then what'd you take away from that experience?
Honestly, y'all, I fail constantly. And that is just because I'm always out there trying new things, taking risk. I like to be innovative. I like to create, and I like to try new things on a regular basis. And, when you're trying to do those type of things, you fail a lot. And so for me, probably the biggest failure that I've ever had was when I first took over Cameron 4 years ago. I fell into that normal trap that a lot of principals fall into, of just feeling I always had to be at work and I always had to be there for my teachers, and that my students and my staff were the most important thing to me. And I'm a dad of 4, and I have an amazing wife, and I let them go to the wayside for a little while. And it was a night, and I remember it very distinctly, where my son, at the time, he was 8 years old, and he looked at me, and I was getting ready to head back to work, and he just looks at me and goes, "Dad, do you really have to go back to work again tonight?" And that hit me, and like, it was just like that wake up call that I needed. And my wife and I, at that time, we were just fighting constantly over my job, and I had to really kind of make some decisions. Like, I preach to my staff constantly, like, it's family first. Your kid's sick, you need to be with your child. If you have a family member sick or need to go to the doctor, you leave and you could take them to the doctor. Like, I constantly preach to them family first. And a couple of my colleagues at school finally said, "Rob, you need to be doing the same thing in your life." And that really kind of has set my tone. And so what I learned was the fact that it's not just about making time for yourself and keeping yourself healthy. You also got to make sure that you're putting your family first and keeping them at the forefront of everything you're doing. So now for me, like, I look back and I have a schedule for work. I come in at 7 a.m. and I am out the door by 4:30 every day. My goal is to be out by 4, and if I get out by 4:30, that's an accomplishment for me. So, and it doesn't always work. It's not a perfect plan because things do come up, but I make sure I really do my best, and my staff knows that at 4:30 my door's going to be closed and I won't be there. And so they've embraced it and really kind of accepted it. And then I have do not disturb hours from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. because that's my time to be with my family. I spend time with my kids. I come home. I have a normal routine where I sit and curl up on the couch with my kids and we watch Sesame Street or something like that. And we have dinner together. And those are the important things because I want to be around for my children. But then after 8 p.m., my wife and I will be sitting on the couch watching TV together. And that's when we turn back on our computers and we pull up our email and stuff like that and get on Twitter chats and do all that kind of fun stuff. But you really have to be purposeful and make sure that you're putting your family and the time with them first, because let's be honest, I didn't believe people when they first told me when I had kids about how fast they grow up, but they really do. And so I now make them my priority.
That's awesome. That's I heard through that whole thing of practice what you preach.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. I tied it back to the same way you talk about your passion and your energy having to be contagious, and you have to you're trying to instill that in everyone else in your school. And the way you do that is by practicing what you preach. You can't just tell them to be energetic and be positive and to say that your kids are the best kids in the state. You've got to lead that and do that. So I'm hearing the same thing in that, and I love it. That's really cool. I don't know if you caught it, Ray, but I heard that his do not disturb hours used to be from 5 to 9, but then Mastery Chat came along in his life, and he's like, oh, I got to move that to 8.
Okay, literally, I was thinking, I'm like, thank God we fell within that bracket.
Yeah, no
Thank
kidding.
goodness.
You know, if you would have started at 7, it would have been a no-go. You would have never met me.
You know, that's it's those little things, the way the universe works. It brings things together. So that's awesome.
Meant to
That's
be.
good. All right, so now, Rob, let's flip it around. Let's talk about a successful moment now. This could be something big or small, but tell us what happened. Why was it a success for you? And then what did you take away from that situation?
Well, when I got to Cameron, the morale and the culture of the school was badly damaged, and they were in a funk. They had been through 3 principals in 5 years, and they were just really having a hard time at that point. And when I came in, they were a D-rated school according to our state, and you know, I had to dig through the data and I had to find the information, but there was a lot to celebrate. So when I got there, I just threw a lot of celebrations, and I really kind of just celebrated every little thing they did and made them feel important. And I was there and I listened, but you know, I still had to be a principal. And so I had to make some non-negotiables. And one of the big things that I did when I got there was I made math a priority in our school, because reading they've always done well, but math was a real struggle for them. So the same framework that we use for our reading program, I put in the same place for math, which was a 20-minute whole group discussion where they provided whole group instruction, and then it was followed up by 60 to 70 minutes of just small group rotations. And every kid every day was my philosophy, and they had to meet with an adult in small group every single day. And I laid it out in the meeting, and I talked to my staff about it, and honestly, most were on board. Almost everybody bought into it, but there was that one teacher, and she was fighting me tooth and nail, and her scores were fantastic. She has always done very well in the state. She was a well-respected teacher in the school, and she really just fought me on doing small groups and doing the rotation with the framework. She even requested to the point where I take them on a field trip to another school to see how they were doing, because she just didn't believe it could work the way I tried to present it. And so I did. And I scheduled a school, and we went up there and we met with them, and we watched 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers implementing the framework to a T and just doing a great job of meeting with these kids every day. And we came back, and she started doing it. And second semester came around, and she was rocking and rolling, and she just kind of hit her groove and started getting the lessons. And every week they were just getting better and better, because her small groups just really tied into her whole group. And by the end of the year, she came into my office and asked to speak with me. And I won't lie to you, like, I was worried. I thought this was where she was about to draw a line in the sand or tell me that she was done and she wasn't coming back. And this is my victory, because she sat down, and again, she was recognized by the state for her scores. She was just killing the classroom before I got there. And she looks at me and she says, you know, I want to thank you for pushing me. You supported me through this framework. I didn't like it. I really didn't want to do it, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was like, boom, right there. That's what I was going for.
That's awesome.
And to this day, she is just, you walk in her classroom and it's like clockwork. I mean, those small groups are running, and she's still, I mean, high scores in my school. She's been recognized as one of the top 10 teachers for math in her state, and she's just killing it. And that was a huge victory for me, of laying it out and getting it out there, and then seeing the results and hearing from this veteran teacher that, hey, you know, like, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for pushing me and helping me expand my thinking. So that was one of my biggest victories I've had since I've been there.
Gosh, that's so cool. One thing you've had amazing stories thus far, but one piece that I just so value from the way you storytell is this idea of not just being able to share inspirational change, right? Tell stories that make you feel good. I hope that our listeners are sitting back like, wow, that was a powerful moment, or, oh, what a great idea. But they're so chock full of like tactical next steps that if you are sitting and listening to these stories, here are 1,000 steps that you could go take to try and make that happen in your own building. I mean, even just the suggestion of, continuously meeting with the teacher and going on a field trip and scheduling something. And, every single story you've told has had all these little steps in between that as educators, we are consistently tinkering, right? We're constantly trying a new thing and trying to see how to reach our students better. And that's clearly how you are working with your staff, your teachers, is, seeing your staff as people that you care about, that you need to build relationships with, and then just constantly striving to support. I just think that's so powerful, and you don't always find that. And I really value that about what you've shared so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right. It starts with relationships, but if you're going to be successful with implementing change, you have to be there to go and support your teachers. You can't just lay out an idea and just let them go with it, because they're going to, like anybody, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to have failure. And if you got to be there to support them and lift them back up and just keep on supporting them through the whole process to make sure that they get to where they need to be.
Well, and I literally just blogged about this, but truly this disconnect that adults don't always see, that the strategies they use with students need to be used on adults, right? Like the best lesson plan design that we do for 8-year-olds is a great lesson plan framework to use with adults. We need to build relationships. We need to hook them. We need to, make sure that it aligns with values. I mean, these are all things that we naturally as educators are doing every single day, and we need to do that for each other as well. I mean, even your story about family time, you not just, emphasized, oh, yep, take time with your family, make sure you have a balanced life. But I love the do not disturb time. I love the ability to say that you're leaving at 4:30. My door is going to be closed if you're looking for me. So feel free to have that same rule for yourself. I think it just gives people permission to take the next step after an inspirational story. I think that's really great.
I love that.
So I want to kind of flip this. For everything you're doing, what's like fueling your fire? What's keeping you excited about education right now?
That's easy. So I am a huge fanatic of project-based learning, STEM education, anything, that just gets kids engaged with learning and gets them excited. So I get really fired up, and just knowing that my teachers are finding ways to engage students in the learning process. When you walk into classrooms in my school, you're going to see these kids collaborating and talking, and my classrooms aren't quiet. You never walk into a classroom and just see kids kind of sitting there doing a worksheet or something like that. There's always something engaging going on. And I had to start slow, and I had to get a couple teachers involved and get them on board. And then it slowly has started picking up, and we're seeing more and more of these type projects in my school. And so we have kids who they're presenting real world scenarios, they're collaborating, brainstorming, problem solving, and they're taking time to test out their ideas. They fail, and then they persevere, and they just keep working through it. And not only are we teaching the material, but we're teaching kids such important life skills that are going to make them so successful as they continue to move through their educational process. So when you walk into a classroom in my school, the rooms are constantly buzzing, kids are collaborating, they're just moving around, doing their thing. But the best part is that when it comes to the end of the day and I'm out there at buses or car riders, and these kids are coming up to me, and every day ends with a hug, but these kids are coming up and they're telling me the stuff that they learned or the things that they experienced in class that day. Right there, that to me is winning. Like, we are on a roll, great things are happening, and that's how you know that you are leading success in your school, is because when those kids are excited about what's happening and they can't wait to get back the next day to see the results or to go and try something different that next day, like right there, like, that you're doing something right.
Absolutely. That's that relevancy. It's amazing what, how a classroom can transform when you start putting the why and that purpose at the forefront of what they're exploring, because then the exploring becomes fun, right? It's so cool.
Yeah, and I love it. So
with all the staff that you've worked with, I mean, obviously you've had an amazing career, not only supporting educators, in person, but also on social media, working with, virtually to support educators. What type of advice do you give teachers? If you're a new teacher listening, or maybe you've been with Teach Better Talk for a while and you're just constantly looking for that next step, what type of advice do our progressive educators need?
Well, I love the quote by Simon Sinek. The goal is not to be perfect by the end, the goal is to be better today. Because let's be honest, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have bad days. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because tomorrow's a new day and it's an opportunity to start fresh and start new. So young teachers need to take initiative. They need to find opportunities for personal growth. They need to ask to go see veteran teachers and see the things that they're doing. If they're struggling somewhere, find a teacher who's really good at that and ask to go see them teach because, there's no principal out there who's going to tell you, no, you can't do that. Like everybody needs that opportunity to see somebody doing something great. Get involved in Twitter chats. I mean, yours is a fantastic one. And the thing I love about your chat is it allows me to go and stay connected with teachers. And so that's why I try to stay very active on your chat. But I want them to continue to sharpen that saw, focus on getting better every day so that you're able to engage, inspire, and ensure that every child that you work with experiences success in your classroom.
I love it. I love the quote. That's a great quote. Our team obviously agrees with that. As the whole teach better mindset is just that. It's not about teaching perfect. It's about teaching better today than you did yesterday and better tomorrow than you did today, and just continuing that. So I love that. Spot on. Go figure, Rob. We speak sort of the same language. I mean,
hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's crazy. So all right, so let's get crazy for a second here.
Oh boy.
We're gonna do I know you know what's coming. You've been here. We're gonna do the next 6 questions. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to roll?
Let's do this.
What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
Wakelet. Gotta have it.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
Oh, gosh, I read so many. So right now, I am currently reading Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Bradbury and Greaves. I'm listening to Dare to Lead by Brene Brown on Audible. And last night, I just picked up Relentless by Hamish Brewer.
Oh, nice. Gotcha. Who do we need to follow on Twitter today?
You got to follow Kyle Hamstra at Kyle Hamstra and his hashtag 180. He does storytelling throughout his year by using the hashtag 180 and just kind of collecting. He uses like an archive of all the great things that happened in his schools. And then my good friend Tanya Gilchrist at Miss Gilchrist. She's just inspirational and she motivates me on a regular basis. So I enjoy following her a lot. And then Katie Alvarez, fresh from the 4th. She's just doing some great things with Blog Deck. So those are the 3 I would recommend right now.
Loving it. Katie also guest blogs over at teachbetter.com.
We love Katie.
We love Katie. She's awesome. So give us a YouTube channel or website that's great for educators.
So I'm going to recommend to everybody that they check out Dr. Amy Bader's Project-Based Learning Network. And it's https www.amybader.com/pbln. And it's fantastic. If you want to know anything about project-based learning or it's something that you've been intrigued by or want to get started with, it's fantastic. And there's a lot of great educators on there sharing great ideas and really kind of helping push people towards that type of thinking when they're in the classroom teaching.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Purposeful planning for your time. You got to make sure that you are planning out your day, knowing where you want to be, who you want to see, what you want to get accomplished for that day. You really got to take time to look at your schedule and know what hiccups you're going to have for that day and what you need to do to get it done.
And what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
When I became a principal, her name was Dr. Monica Thompson, and she was my intern principal. And she once told me, don't ever ask others to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's great. That's great advice. I've gotten similar advice in my life. I love it. So nice job there.
Your trophy is in the mail, Rob. It's on the way.
You've been giving these trophies out like crazy, right?
No, only to the people I like.
Only
to the people I like.
Oh, so if you've been on our podcast as a guest and you didn't get a trophy, Ray doesn't like you.
No,
that's what
how
you
dare
just
you
said.
Throw me under the bus.
That is what you just said, Ray.
Well, I feel good right now knowing that Ray likes me.
Yeah, but Rob, we should really just be disappointed in how she's treating all the
other
other
Jeff,
guests.
stop throwing me under the bus. That's so mean.
Oh, man, I don't know how I do this, Rob, like how I continue to work with this person.
Can we all just point out Jeff has never gotten the trophy? Let's just go there. Jeff's never, ever gotten the trophy.
Hey, Ray.
What?
I am the trophy. Okay? Let's just make sure that's right now set to get. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave. It was great talking with both of you, and have a
Oh,
good night.
stop. Robert, let's ignore him. I do want to tell you, first of all, I obviously like you. You've had an amazing podcast recording, and I'm actually like shocked that we're at the end because I'm like, wait, we have so much more to talk about. But before we go, I want to make sure our listeners are able to also continue this conversation because I know that we will definitely after this recording. Would you mind sharing out how people can get connected with you?
So I'm on Twitter, and my Twitter account is at rbreyer51. And they can also go to my website, beyondthedeskleadership.com. And there they'll find my blog, and they'll find my I just started a Facebook group called the Guiding Principles Facebook group. And they'll also find my podcast, the Guiding Principles Podcast.
Awesome.
Loving it. You can find all the links and resources and everything we talked about with Rob over at teachbetter.com, as well as the really important links for connecting with Rob, keeping that conversation going, checking out his blog, checking out the podcast. So make sure you head over to show notes at teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we really, really appreciate that. Ray loves that 5-star review, so make sure you go that way. And let's take it one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories like Rob has shared today, and share this podcast with them so we can continue to lift these voices and spread these awesome stories. So, loving it. Rob, this was awesome, man. I feel like I'm with Ray. There was so much more we could continue talking about that I think we're going to have you back on in the future and do that. I am super stoked to come down to North Carolina and check out your amazing school and hang out for a little while and do that. But we are just super appreciative of your time and your experience and your knowledge and everything you brought to this. So just thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you to you guys. This has been a pleasure. It was an honor to be on your show, and I love what you guys are doing, and just keep it up.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.